Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the People on the Go Lunch and Learn webinar. My name's Melissa, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. Before we start, let's check and make sure that you can see the screen and hear me. If you can please use the questions panel on the right side of your screen to type a brief note indicating that you can hear me and see the screen, that would be great. Thank you so much. And by the way, this is the same questions panel we'll be using for questions later. And just in case you're having technical difficulty, the support number to call is right there on the screen, 1-800-263-6317. Today's webinar is Move More to Accomplish More. Exercise is the secret sauce to better performance in all areas of your life. And I have with me Jennifer Whelan, our speaker, who I'll be introducing in just a moment. A quick background about why we have these sessions, especially for those who are with us for the first time. We have these sessions because our focus at People on the Go is productivity in the workplace. And the topics that you see on the screen are the topics that we cover. We have them available in a variety of formats, including the webinar format, just like today's session. The webinars are offered on a monthly basis, and you can check them out on our website. We also have a membership program that makes these webinars very easy to take advantage of. And we have many resources available like the blog, Facebook, LinkedIn groups, and you can also follow our founder, Pierre Khawand, on Twitter. And so now let's dive into today's topic. I'm going to introduce our speaker, Jennifer Whelan. As the owner of Evolve Fitness and Coaching in the San Francisco Bay Area, Jennifer Whelan works with clients locally and across the nation through her fitness and nutrition programs. Jennifer is certified as a personal trainer from the National Association of Sports Medicine, a lifestyle and weight management coach from the American Council on Exercise, a certified TRX instructor, as well as a certified group exercise instructor. In addition to her fitness and coaching training, she has more than 16 years of experience as a communications consultant and has devoted her life to helping people achieve physical, emotional, and financial health. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and this transition will take just one moment.
Thanks, Melissa. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Great. I'm going to go into slide mode. Let me know if you can see this okay.
Yes, that's perfect.
Great. Okay, thank you, Melissa, and hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about something that is really near and dear to my heart, which is how moving more not only helps you accomplish more, but why regular exercise and activity throughout the day is so critical to being at your best at work and in life. We've got about 30 minutes before we break for Q&A at the end of the presentation, and I want to make sure I leave time for your questions. So I'm going to dive right in because we've got a lot to cover and talk about some of the key takeaways that I want to leave you with today. We're going to talk about the way that your body responds to exercise or how it adapts to exercise. We're going to talk about the very real health benefits of exercise and 13 other surprising benefits that you get when you exercise regularly. We're going to cover why sitting disease is the new smoking and the side effects of sitting disease. 5 easy ways to take a break from all the sitting and add more activity into your workday. How much and what kind of exercise that you need to be doing to reap all of the benefits that we're going to talk about today. And how to flip the script on the 2 most common excuses that people give for not exercising. So with that, let's get started and talk about how all of the benefits of exercise that I'm going to walk through today come from the way that your body adapts to the demands that you place on it when you exercise. As soon as you start moving, your body knows that it needs to kick into gear to keep you moving. And here's what happens. Your muscles need oxygen, so you start breathing faster to draw in more air. This is why you huff and puff when you start working harder. And during peak exercise, your lungs can actually breathe up to 25 times their resting capacity per minute. Your muscles and other tissues need more blood to feed them, so your heart pumps faster to provide it. The average person's heart rate is about 70 beats per minute, but when you exercise vigorously, your heart can actually beat at double that rate or more. And the more you exercise, the more efficient your heart gets at pumping more blood. So your resting heart rate will actually lower a bit. As an example, I've been working out for many years, and my resting heart rate is about 56 beats a minute. But when I exercise vigorously, my heart rate regularly gets into the 160 to 170 beats per minute range. Your metabolism fires up, burning carbs, which is your body's preferred fuel source, and the reason why we all need to eat carbs. And it also burns fat for energy. You know, what kind and how many carbs is a whole other discussion that we're not going to get into today. Your muscles contract and relax, which causes your joints to move. So when you're running, lifting weight, doing a yoga pose, or whatever form of exercise that you've chosen, this is actually how your body expends the energy that you're producing. Your endocrine system starts sending messages through your hormones to your cells, your organs, and your tissues. And it says, increase production, regulate temperature, which is why you sweat, be alert and focus, and so much more. It's actually really pretty amazing how your endocrine system works. And your brain starts releasing a cocktail of hormones like norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. And with all of these adaptations that happen when you exercise, come the benefits of regular exercise. And let's talk about the health benefits first. Your heart and your lungs get stronger. The more you require of them to supply blood and oxygen as you exercise, the more efficient they get at doing just that. A stronger heart actually reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease, and stronger lungs give you more endurance and capacity for strenuous activity. So you can go harder and longer when you want to without getting tired so easily. Have you ever heard the phrase, know your numbers? You probably have if you have a wellness program at work. And that's actually referring to your biometric numbers, which are also called your biometric markers. Those markers include your blood pressure, your fasting glucose level, which is your blood sugar, cholesterol and triglyceride levels, and body mass index, or BMI. Now, these are all important indicators of how healthy you are overall. Diet and exercise keep all of these in check so that your weight stays at an optimal level for your body, and your blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar all stay within normal levels. Now, the better your numbers, the lower your risk is for chronic or serious conditions like heart disease, some types of cancer, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. And exercise combined with a balanced diet can actually reduce your risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 50 to 60%, or reverse it if you already have the condition. But beyond those fantastic health benefits, and there's a lot there are so many more that are the direct result of how your body responds to the demands that you place on it when you exercise. And we're going to cover 13 of those today, starting with 5 that will help you get ahead at work. The first is a sharper mind. Exercise sharpens your mind. And it does that by flooding your brain with oxygen, hormones, and nutrients, which creates the perfect environment for you to grow new brain cells and stimulate more of a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, because that's a total mouthful to say. And surges in BDNF might be the reason why adults who exercise regularly show sharper memory skills, higher concentration levels, more fluid thinking, reasoning, and greater problem-solving skills than sedentary adults do. All things we'd like to have, right? Now, that's not to say that inactive people don't grow new brain cells, because of course they do. But exercise is known to spark the creation of 2 or 3 times more, or excuse me, as many new hippocampal neurons than sedentary people. Your hippocampus is the most vital part of your brain for memory and learning. Now, exercise also triggers endorphins, which helps you prioritize better, so you're able to focus on the most important things that you need to get done. The second is endurance. Simply put, being fit makes you better able to keep up at whatever you're doing for longer periods of time. You're less likely to get fatigued during the day, so you can be more productive when you're on the clock, and you have energy to spare when you're not off the clock. I mean, who here hasn't gotten home after a long day and felt like a total zombie and had no energy to do anything? It's so much nicer when you're exercising regularly to get home and actually have energy to do fun things, or be with your family, or do whatever it is that you like to do after you're off work. You'll also be able to outperform your less active coworkers, according to a study that came out in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. The third is sharpened focus. Now, if you have a presentation or a speaking engagement or something really big where you need to focus, you should try working out beforehand. Like, before you head into work if it's a morning thing, or during lunch if you can, if it's in the afternoon, because when you do, you'll be at your peak when you actually have to perform. And that's because exercise can raise your focus for 2 to 3 hours afterward, according to Dr. John Rady, who wrote a book called Spark, The Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain. The fourth benefit is creativity. When we exercise, it's really a chance to get out of our heads and allow our minds to just relax. We're not all trained monkeys. We can't be creative on demand. And sometimes you have to do something else and get your mind off of what you're doing in order to spark those creative moments. And exercise can actually help us do that. It may sound counterproductive, but how many times have you felt that surge of creativity when your mind was occupied elsewhere doing something that was unrelated? Like, for example, washing dishes or chopping vegetables when you're making dinner, or mowing the lawn, or even folding laundry. I actually tend to get my best ideas in the shower, of all places, when I'm getting ready in the morning, or when I'm hiking in the hills. I do a lot of creative thinking when I'm out hiking. I wish I had a tape recorder or something with me so I could capture everything I'm thinking about. The next time you're feeling stuck or out of ideas, you should try getting in that workout, or go for a walk outside even. It really doesn't matter what you do and how long you do it, because even short exercise sessions will produce long lengths of boosted creativity. Now, as I mentioned a bit ago, exercise leads to the release of serotonin and dopamine. And dopamine plays a major role in the part of your brain that's responsible for reward-driven learning. Serotonin contributes to feelings of well-being and happiness, and both of those work to put you in a better mood, give you energy, and motivate you. And when you're in a good mood, like this guy who's happily working away, you're much better at problem solving versus being in a bad mood, or sort of feeling neutral or not much of anything at all. You're also more fun to work with, more willing to listen, less impatient, less likely to react rashly when somebody says or does something that you don't like or that irritates you, which actually makes you more likely to be the go-to person on your team, because you're just more of a pleasure to work with. Now let's talk about some of the other benefits of exercise that aren't necessarily work-related but have a big impact on your quality of life. Resistance or strength training adds lean muscle mass to your body. Why would you want to put on lean muscle? Well, the first reason is to slow down the natural loss of muscle tissue that happens when you age. Starting at age 30, and how many of you are over 30 on this call, we actually lose about 1/2 pound of muscle a year. You want to put on lean muscle so that you can change your body composition, which is the ratio of lean mass to fat mass, and it's usually expressed as a percentage. Now, the better your ratio, the healthier that you are, and the more lean and toned your body looks. And a lower body fat percentage means that you could actually see the 4 or 6 pack abs that are hiding underneath belly fat. You also want muscle so that you burn even more calories, because the fact is muscle burns way more calories per pound per hour than fat does. 6.5 calories per pound per hour versus only 1.2 per pound per hour. It's a big, big difference. Through regular exercise, your metabolism will become more naturally efficient, since stronger muscles are denser, metabolically active, and they require more calories to feed and maintain. Depending on how long and how hard you exercise, your metabolism can actually stay elevated for up to 24 hours after your workout. It's a concept that they call afterburn, and you can up that effect by challenging yourself, like with an interval workout, lifting heavier weights, or doing high-intensity activities. Now, for example, an hour-long boot camp class that mixes functional exercise with plyometric bursts, which is jump training, or high-intensity interval training circuits will keep you burning calories long after that sweat session is over. How many of you on the call are close to 40 or in your 40s right now? I'm about to turn 41, so I pay special attention to facts like these. And a speedier metabolism will become even more important when you pass the age of 40, because that's when your metabolism naturally starts to slow down, and it slows down by about 3% per decade. And that happens in part because of the gradual loss of lean muscle mass that we just talked about. So the faster and more efficient you can make your metabolism, you can fight that slowdown, reducing the amount that yours slows pretty significantly. Now, this one's a biggie for everyone these days. Exercise helps you reduce and better manage stress by lowering the amount of cortisol that your body makes. You've heard of the fight or flight mode, I'm sure. And there are 3 hormones that affect that: epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline, norepinephrine, and cortisol all work together to help your body deal with stressors and bring you back to pre-danger mode. Now, the problem is, while this response was intended to deal with short-term survival situations like being chased by a bear, it happens in response to all stressors. So the deadlines that you're bombarded with at work, or the traffic that drives you crazy on the commute home, and just about everything else in our modern society. Your body just doesn't know the difference. And when stress is always present, your body can't get rid of the excess cortisol that builds up in your blood. That excess cortisol hangs around like an unwanted house guest, turning young fat cells into mature fat cells that stay with you forever. And it increases your cravings for high-fat, high-carb foods because they cause a chemical reaction in the brain that makes you feel good. And it really messes with your mood, your concentration, and your creative thinking ability. Exercise also strengthens your core. Your core is actually a tire of muscle around your spine that takes the pressure off of your vertebral bones and discs and the nerves that generate pain. And a stronger core means less back pain for you and less risk of postural issues like rounded shoulders or a forward extending neck that are pretty common for those of us who spend hours sitting at a desk or a meeting table or wherever you happen to be doing the majority of your computer work. The next time you're in front of a mirror, do yourself a favor, turn to the side and look at your shoulders and neck and see if your shoulders are looking a little bit rounded from being hunched over at your desk, or if your neck is extended forward from looking at your screen all day. These are both signs that you need to focus on strengthening your core and your back, and that you need to stretch regularly. Now, the more you move, the less likely you are to get sick from the random cold or the really horrible flu virus that's been going around lately that gets passed down from coworkers to coworkers or from your children's school or daycare to you. And why? Because when you exercise, there's a temporary rise in your immune cells. According to a University of Wisconsin at Madison study, people who exercise regularly see a 29% decrease in the frequency of colds. And in a large 2010 study, those who were active for at least 5 days a week cut the length of their cold almost in half. And in other research, people who exercised after getting a flu shot nearly doubled their immune response. Very cool. Physical activity actually boosts blood flow to the parts of the brain that keep you calm. I'm sure you can easily think of several situations at work or at home when remaining calm would have helped you navigate a tough situation, deal with someone who was really stressed out or angry or out of control, like your kids, or your spouse, or a friend, or your boss. And staying calm could help you handle the crisis a whole lot better. You know, study in medicine and science and sports and exercise found that not only did people score lower on anxiety tests right after working out, but they also kept their cool 30 minutes later. So exercise can have lasting effect on your ability to stay calm. And here's a good one, especially for us women on the call. Turns out that sweating is good for your skin too. Studies show that regular workouts increase overall circulation and the skin's natural ability to produce collagen, which your body really needs to keep your skin looking plump and young. And your body naturally slows down its production of collagen the older that you get. Now, some of your sweat when you exercise evaporates to cool your body, and the rest is reabsorbed into your skin, which gives it that nice hydrated look after your workout. And that's a whole lot better than the grayish pallor that you get from being stuck indoors all day under fluorescent lighting. And finally, Working out zaps stress and anxiety, and it helps your body to regulate its own temperature so that you can fall asleep more peacefully, like this little guy here. I love this photo. In a 2011 study, people who did a total of 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week were able to fall asleep faster and felt less tired during daylight hours. And counter to what you may have heard, it doesn't matter what time of day you exercise. Only limited research suggests that late night physical activity hurts the quality of your sleep. So the message here is whenever you can get in your workout, do it, and don't worry about it messing with your sleep, because likely it won't. Now, after hearing all of those benefits, I'm sure the question you're asking yourself right now is, how much and what kind of exercise do I need to get all of those benefits? Well, according to the 2008 Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans, which is actually published by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, adults need either 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic activity. Now, why either or? Well, it's because 1 minute of vigorous intensity activity is about the same as 2 minutes of moderate intensity activity. Essentially, the harder you work, the less time you have to spend to get all the benefits. Now, working at a moderate intensity means that you're working hard enough to raise your heart rate and to break a sweat. You should be able to talk, but not be able to sing the words to your favorite song. Walking fast, riding a bike on even ground, or playing tennis are some of the activities that could get you there. Working out at a vigorous intensity means that you're breathing hard and fast, and your heart rate has gone up quite a bit. If you're working at this level, you should not be able to say more than a few words without stopping for a breath. So activities like jogging, running, or riding a bike faster on hills will do the trick. Adults also need to get 2 or more days of muscle strengthening activities per week. And those can include lifting weights, doing exercises that use your body weight for resistance, heavy gardening, or yoga. You can do activities that strengthen your muscles on the same or different days that you do your aerobic activity, whichever works best for you with your schedule. Just keep in mind that muscle strengthening activities don't count towards your aerobic activity level. Now, the health benefits only increase when you invest more time in being physically active. For example, the more you exercise and the more regularly you exercise, you get increased endurance, you build strength, you add speed, and you make positive changes to body composition, and you get an even more efficient metabolism. Melissa, let's do our first poll question here. I want to ask everybody, how many minutes of moderate intensity activity are you actually getting per week? Is it 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 90 to 120, or more than 120 minutes per week? We'll give everybody just a minute to respond to that. And then Melissa's going to give us the results.
Just waiting for a few more to participate. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now. And the results are, okay, 0 to 30 is 23%. 30 to 60 is also 23%. 60 to 90 is 13%. 90 to 120 is 20%. And 120 plus is 20%.
Great. So we've actually got kind of an even split,
right,
for the most part, among all of these options. That's interesting. I fully expected to see a lot of folks down on the lower side of the scale, but I'm actually quite happy to see more people towards the top end. That's great. And we'll talk a little bit more about, recommended time on the next slide, because I think when people hear terms like 150 minutes or 75 minutes plus 2 strength days, it might sound like a lot of time that you're going to have to spend exercising, but it really isn't, I promise. I built a sample weekly plan that will show you what that time might look like when you combine 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity with 2 days of strength training. Sunday could be a 30-minute walk or bike ride. Monday could be your first strength session of 30 minutes. Tuesday and Wednesday could be a 40-minute walk or bike ride. Thursday could be another strength session, since you really should be breaking up the days that you do your strength session to allow your muscles time to recuperate. Friday could be another ride or walk, and Saturday could be a 60-minute yoga class, or could be a rest day if you didn't feel like exercising that day. And what's important to realize here is that the sample plan adds up to just about 4 hours. And out of the about 119 hours that you're awake during the week, it's only 3% of your time. So it really is definitely doable. And if only about 4 hours a week is what it takes to meet the recommended minimums, why aren't we exercising more? Why aren't we exercising as much as we know we should? And there are two top reasons why people say that they don't exercise. And the first is, I don't have time. And the second is, I'm too tired. And let's talk about these for a minute and try to flip the script on them so that these are no longer excuses for why you're not exercising. Now, I know you're all busy trying to manage life demands, but the time really is there when you think about 30 minutes a day or 40 minutes a day. Let me break it down. If you work about 50 hours a week and you sleep about 7 hours or less for many of us a night, that leaves about anywhere from 65 to 70 hours a week or so for other stuff. Let's think about how you spend your off hours from work. Chances are you probably spend quite a bit of time, like most people, watching television, being on social media, or doing things that you might consider sort of time suck activities. Chances are you spend way more time on those types of things than you think you do. And if you cut back a little here and there, voila, you've got your 30 minutes a day. And because I know your calendar is probably packed, I really recommend scheduling your workouts when you have the fewest conflicts. And for most of us, that's typically morning time before other things get in the way. And as an added bonus for getting it done first thing in the morning, you actually get to reap the benefits all day with a boost in mood, energy, and metabolism. And you get more time to reap the afterburn effect. So for example, if you put in, I worked out this morning with a pretty vigorous session, and now I get to reap the benefits of that the entire day, which is great. And it's working out in the morning, it's not for everyone. It's something I typically recommend to my clients if they can work it out. But really the important thing here is that you exercise regularly, so fit it in when you can. The second excuse, the I'm too tired or I have no energy, we're actually not tired at the end of the day because we get too much exercise. We're tired because we don't get enough. We're mentally, emotionally, and physically drained from being sedentary. And study after study shows that we're more productive and happier on less sleep when we're fit. So unless you're sick, you have enough energy to exercise. You just need to tap into it. Waiting until you feel like doing something else, doing something that you don't want to do, probably means you're not going to do it. And if you're telling yourself in your head, God, I really don't want to do this, I really don't want to do this, chances are you're never going to do it. The best strategy is really to commit to just 10 minutes of exercise to shake off your sluggishness, because chances are you're going to feel more energized after that 10 minutes and you'll be more likely to keep going. But if you're not, if you're truly really tired, then stop there and you can get back on track tomorrow. At least you'll have done something that counts towards your weekly goal. Now let me ask you, besides the two reasons that we just talked about, what are some of the other reasons that get in the way of exercising? Some of the common ones include no gym membership, or that you don't have access to the right equipment, that you need someone to hold you accountable, or that working out is boring. How can you overcome these to get moving? One of the most common things that I hear about, the whole gym membership thing or the lack of access to equipment is, you don't need a gym to work out. If you have a set of dumbbells and a mat at home, there are a ton of exercises that you can be doing in the comfort of your own home and get through a routine in 30 minutes and be done with it. In fact, if you go to my website, there are a lot of free workouts that you can download from my blog that require no equipment or require just that set of dumbbells and a mat. If you need someone to hold you accountable because it's not something that you feel like you can do on a regular basis on your own without somebody expecting you to be somewhere, or kind of looking over your shoulder, then there are two things that I usually suggest to people. And the first is get a workout buddy. If you have a friend or a family member who works out with you and who is expecting you to be somewhere to work out with them, you're much more likely to make that appointment. And you get the benefit of sharing the experience with somebody and, using each other's energy to spur each other on. And the third one, working out is boring, very common excuse. My answer to that is typically you're not doing the right activity. If you're bored with whatever your chosen workout activity is, it's time to find something new that you actually like to do so that you're more likely to keep doing it. The whole point of this is that we all need to move more. We need to exercise, we need to move more, because it's not just about exercising regularly, it's also about finding ways to build more activity into our days. The sad fact is we sit way too much, and it's killing our bodies and our productivity. And I would be remiss in this presentation if I didn't help you understand that exercise alone isn't enough to combat the effects of sitting disease. As a society, we are more sedentary than ever. Less than 2 in 10 Americans gets even the recommended amount of exercise that we just talked about. And you can see, kind of based on the poll results that we saw, that almost half the audience, actually, over half the audience gets less than 90 minutes a week. So not even getting the minimum recommended moderate activity. And even worse than that, 40% of Americans say they don't exercise at all. We're awake about 17 hours a day, like I said, but according to the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science and Sport, our muscles are inactive about 72% of that time, or almost 12 hours a day, even if you're exercising. How is that even possible? Well, I'll tell you. If you're like the average person, you clock almost 55 hours a week sitting. Laying in bed, sitting in traffic, sitting on mass transit, sitting at your desk or around a meeting table, sitting on the couch when you get home or on the weekends. We watch about 5 hours of television a day, the average American does, all while sitting or lying down. And I recently saw the results of a survey of 1,300 women by Shape Magazine and SheKnows.com that said 47% of those respondents spent 2 to 5 hours on social media a day. And with stats like those, it cannot be a surprise that sitting disease is the smoking of our generation. Melissa, let's do our second poll question here. I want everybody to take a few seconds to think about your typical day at work and choose the answer that best covers how many hours during your workday that you think you spend sitting. Is it about 2, 4, 6, or more than 6 hours? And we'll give everybody a minute to respond, and then Melissa will give us the results.
Thank you, everyone. So let's see, 0% was a 2, 4 was a 7%, 6 is 38%, and more than 6 is 55%.
Wow. So more than 3/4 spend 6 or more hours sitting at their work each day. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
So spending all that time sitting in a chair, in the car, on the bus, on the train, on the couch, and laying in bed really isn't just murder on your back. It actually can literally kill you. And this isn't news. There's a 2011 infographic, the top of which I'm showing here, that explains pretty simply and compellingly how sitting wrecks your body and makes you fat. And there, you can see the full infographic online if you want. You just have to Google the words "sitting too much infographic" and you'll find it. I'm bringing this up today because I want you to understand what happens to your body when you sit for long periods of time, in the hope that it will prompt you to get up more often, to stretch, to breathe, and move around. It's a little like your brain on drugs analogy, but I think it's pretty powerful. The more you sit around, the more likely you are to fall prey to so-called senior moments. We've all had those. You go upstairs to get something, and the second you get upstairs, you can't remember what you came up for, or somebody asks you a question that you normally know the answer to, but you can't get the answer out for whatever reason, even though you feel like it's on the tip of your tongue. Your hippocampus, which remember is responsible for learning and memory, naturally deteriorates as you age, but the side effects of sitting too much, like obesity and diabetes, can actually speed that process up. And while sedentary people grow new hippocampal neurons, like we said, exercisers create 2 or 3 times more. Eating too much isn't the only way that you add unwanted junk to your trunk. A recent cell culture found that when you sit for long periods of time, the weight that your body puts on your fat cells actually encourages them to create twice as much fat at a faster rate than when you're standing. And the fat that's created is triglycerides, which is the worst kind. High triglyceride levels actually raise your risk of stroke. And taking vanity into account here for just a second, too much sitting leads to a little phenomenon that I like to call office chair ass. And your butt gets wider and flatter, like your office chair seat shown here. And it becomes more cellulite-ridden, giving it the appearance of jello. Jiggly, gelatinous, not pretty. And in addition, the electrical activity in your leg muscles, which are the largest in your body next to your gluteus maximus, shuts off. Very important. Staying seated for hours at a time tightens your hip flexors in your chest, and it weakens your core, which means a slumped posture and back pain. Now, back pain is the #1 disability for people under age 45 in the U.S. There's about 31 million people in the U.S. with back pain, lower back pain at any given time. Every time you eat, your blood sugar spikes and you get this huge 4-hour crush of calorie storing activities. Your body goes through the normal process of digesting and metabolizing the nutrients that you just ate. And recent research shows that being sedentary can actually turn that process into a dangerous one, because when otherwise healthy people halved the number of steps that they took per day, their blood sugar spikes increased more than normal after each meal they ate. And it didn't matter what type of food they ate, even if it was low on the glycemic index scale, which is how they determine how fast and how high a particular food can raise your blood sugar. And these increased spikes are linked to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes. And even something as simple as breathing can get bunched up by too much chair time. Our energy level depends in large part on our breath, and breathing deeply brings in more oxygen to your body and increases your energy. The more you sit and the worse your posture is while you're sitting, the more shallow your breaths become. Take a second and pay attention to your breathing right now. I bet you it's pretty shallow, and it's been some time since you took a deep cleansing breath. So breathe deeply a few times for me right now and help restore your energy. Sitting expends almost no energy, because if you're sitting, your muscles are not contracting, except maybe to type or to hold your phone to your ear or your iPad at reading level. But the big muscles, like your legs and your butt, are just sitting there pretty quietly. And when you're not moving major muscles, your metabolism slows way, way down. Calorie burning drops to only 1 per minute versus about 10 per minute when you're standing. And the enzymes that help break down fat drop by 90%. This is a big deal. When you're plopped in a chair for hours, gravity and a lack of circulation can actually cause a buildup of fluid in your lower legs. So when you get into bed at night, that extra fluid migrates to the muscles and tissues of your neck and may actually force your throat to swell. Now, swollen throat makes it harder for you to breathe deeply, draw in enough air, and you might even stop breathing for short periods of time during the night, which is a condition called sleep apnea. Not getting enough restorative sleep, which you can't when you're not breathing well, can leave you feeling like a zombie during the day. But enough of bad news and scary stats. Time for the good news. All is not lost. You don't have to suffer the effects of sitting disease. You can actually dramatically minimize or eliminate them with a prescription of regular exercise and more daily activity. Now remember, these are the recommended minimums for exercise that adults need each week, and based on the sample plan that I shared, it's about 4 hours a week. But the important thing that I want you to remember here is that when you think about sitting disease and all of the nasty side effects of it, exercising regularly, even if you're getting the 90 minutes or 120 minutes or 150 minutes a week, doesn't negate the effects of sitting. unfortunately. The silver bullet to beating sitting disease is really moving. You've got to move more during the day. You've got to stand, you've got to walk, you've got to move around, stretch, which not only helps your back and shoulders and your neck, but it will also give you more energy to keep your metabolism stoked and boost your productivity. And it's actually not that hard to do. Here are 5 easy ways that you can add regular activity or more activity to your workday. Ask your employer for a sit-to-stand desk if your company supports it. And if they don't, try setting your laptop on any stable surface that's high enough for you to be able to type comfortably with your arms at right angles and where your head is not looking too far down. You can try standing while talking on the phone or while in a long meeting. Whenever you're on a conference call, get up and pace around while you're on the phone. If you're in a meeting, one of the tricks I used to do when I was, having to sit in hours-long meetings was to get up and stand with my back against the wall in the back of the room, and I would shift my weight from foot to foot. Doing that fires up your leg and back muscles and your butt muscles, which helps the fat and sugar in the blood move throughout the body. You can try replacing your desk chair with a stability ball, which is also a good option if a sit-to-stand desk is not possible for you at work, or if you have a desktop computer and not a laptop. Take the stairs as much as you can. It burns calories fast. Climbing just 2 flights of stairs every day could result in a loss of up to 6 pounds a year. 6 flights a day could help you trim almost 18 pounds a year. Get up and talk to your colleagues by ditching the email and the instant messenger. FaceTime is kind of a lost art now with all the technology in our lives. So, this is a great excuse for you to get a little movement in, but also get more of that FaceTime with your colleagues if you can. And my last tip is to hold a meeting while walking. Bonus points if you take it outside, because you actually get a boost of creativity from being in nature. And walking burns 3 to 5 times the calories that sitting does. During the full session in June, which I hope you'll all be able to attend, we'll talk a lot more about ways to add activity to your workday and when you're not at work. And all attendees will also get to take part in a 30-day challenge to help you move more. And the winner of that challenge will get to participate in my 8-week challenge online exercise and nutrition program for free. Now, let's get wrapping up, because I want to make sure we leave a little time for questions. I know we've gone over just a little bit, and I've covered a lot today. So let me just quickly recap with the key takeaways that I mentioned at the beginning of the session. Your body responds to the demands that you place on it when you move or exercise, and those adaptations are what deliver all of the fabulous benefits of regular exercise, like a stronger heart and lungs, reducing your risk of serious or chronic illness, and preventing and reversing type 2 diabetes. And there's so many other benefits to exercise beyond those that are just for your health, like managing stress, boosting productivity, creative thinking, better sleep, and so much more. But even with all those tremendous benefits, we're not moving nearly enough. We spend much more time watching TV and on social media than we do moving. And sitting too much is one of the leading causes of back pain and postural issues. And it could literally kill us in the long run because of how your body responds to inactivity. You need to get at least the recommended minimums to get all of the benefits of exercise that we talked about today. And getting more than the minimum means even more benefits. The common excuses we tell ourselves about why we don't exercise more, like no time and no energy, can be overcome with the tips and strategies that we talked about today. And finally, you need to move a whole lot more during the day to battle the side effects of sitting disease. Simply exercising 30 minutes or so a day, getting that recommended minimum, just won't do it. And I hope what I covered today, what you learned today, inspires you to get out of the chair, out of the car, and off the couch more often, and that you make a plan to build regular exercise into your schedule so that you can reap all of the benefits that we covered, improving your health and your quality of life at the same time. I also hope that you take the step of asking for a sit-to-stand desk or a stability ball to sit on while you're at work. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Melissa so we can start the Q&A portion of the call.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was really informative and very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Here again is Jennifer's contact information, so you can get in touch with her if you'd like to learn more. And before we take questions, you can go ahead and start submitting them if you like. Thank you so much for hanging on the line. We've got a little bit over, and we'll wrap it up shortly. For those who joined us later in the session, please feel free to visit our blog and join our Facebook and LinkedIn groups, and follow our founder, Pierre, on Twitter so you can stay up to date on future events. I have a very special announcement. We've been hosting a leadership survey, and today we're going to announce the winners, and I will also email them. So if you're on the line and I announce your name, congratulations. The survey is also still open, and when we reach 1,000 participants, we're going to be giving away the same prizes. So, you still have another opportunity. Those who have already entered, you're still going to be eligible for that later drawing. So please feel free to participate. It's very quick. I'm going to actually send you the link now, and feel free to share that with your colleagues. Now for the winners, our first prize winner for this drawing is Deborah Strickland. Second is David Gabriel. Third is Ain Indermitta. Fourth is Deanne Terry, along with Ashish Tajpuria and Alyssa Barrel. And again, I'll be emailing you as well. I also have another announcement about a special that we're currently running. It's for 3 wellness webinars, and Jennifer's webinar, the longer session, 75 minutes, that's coming up in June, is also incorporated into this special. And this is really a great deal, just $19.95 for all 3. Move more to accomplish more, eat well to accomplish more, and stress management. And those are coming up in the summer months. And I'm going to send you the specials link as well. And so now you're on the air. Please type your questions if you have not already into the questions panel, and I'm going to relay them to Jennifer. Congratulations, Ain. I see you on the line there. Al, I'll definitely send you the URL of Jennifer's site in just a moment. Jennifer, I had a question. For those of us who are, exercise reluctant, you shared a lot of great tips. What are some other ways to make it fun? I think sometimes, like you said, exercise does seem boring. What are some strategies or even types of exercises that you recommend, when exercise just doesn't seem like something you want to do?
That's a great question, Melissa. One of my top recommendations is to think about, beyond what you think of typical exercise activities, think about some of the things that you find pleasure and joy in doing. Do you actually like to ride a bike versus, be in a gym lifting weights? Do you like dancing? Do you like to exercise in a group? Do you prefer to exercise with a partner? Finding the situation and the type of activity that you most enjoy, that you get the exercise benefit out of too, is going to be one of the best ways that you can guarantee that it's something that you'll keep doing and that you won't get bored with so quickly. So for example, if you prefer to exercise in groups, then joining a gym and getting in on the classes, or finding something like my outdoor boot camp classes, which are taught at the Lafayette Reservoir, which is a really beautiful outdoor facility that's kind of inspiring, to go exercise in, can make it a lot more pleasurable and seem less like work and drudgery and boring. Having a buddy that you can talk with. I hike with a group of ladies, and it's our time to be social and catch up while we're also getting in a great workout. And it makes it much less like exercise and more like spending quality time with the people that you're friends with or your family members. So those would be 2 of my top recommendations. And you may not know what you like, and the answer there is to keep trying new activities. Do a little research and find different things that you haven't tried before and give them a shot and see what resonates best with you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Here's a good question. Do you have a recommendation for how much to stand in an 8-hour workday when you use a sit-to-stand computer station?
ultimately, what I would love for people to do is to stand as much as they possibly can and only sit when you absolutely need to. But that being said, going from sitting all day to standing the majority of your day is something that I think you need to work up to. And I know this from firsthand experience because I did this when I was still consulting and built a stand-up workstation at home for myself. And what I found was that I started out by standing up for an hour and then sitting for an hour. And then I sort of graduated to standing for 2 hours and sitting for an hour. And then I worked up to a place where I was standing as much as I possibly could during the day. So I would get up and I would pace around when I was on calls, things like that. One of the things that really helped me make that transition was getting something soft to stand on. So I went out and purchased one of those really nice gel mats that chefs and people like that use. You can actually get a really nice one at a store like Bed Bath & Beyond for about $70, I think it was. And that helps absorb some of the shock and stress that being on your feet for long periods of time really places on your body. But eventually, I think the ratio I would love to see is that you're standing for 6 hours a day and you're sitting for 2.
Great. Thanks again, Jennifer. Everyone, we've gone over just a little bit. Thank you again for your questions and for staying on the line. If you have additional questions, again, please feel free to contact Jennifer. She has a wealth of information, as I'm sure you've learned today. Thank you so much again for joining us. And as you leave today, a feedback form will pop up. If you could please fill that out, that really helps us to improve our offerings. Thanks again, Jennifer, and to our participants, and I'll be logging off now. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.